Welcome to The Author Next Door, where hosts Angela Haas and Cassie Newell chat about the wild world of writing and publishing. Join them for weekly episodes and special monthly guests. Pull up a chair. The conversation starts now.
Welcome to episode 35. I'm Angela Haas, and I'm here with my co-host Cassie Newell. And this month, we are talking all about ways to grow your business as an author. This episode, I'm leading with points about how to sell in person. Because sometimes we're so focused on selling books in an online space, but we don't realize that there are so many opportunities to sell your books face to face. I created a seminar like this. I'm changing the title, but it was called Think Like a Retailer, just to share some of my expertise running brick and mortar stores, but also my years as a buyer, a book buyer, art buyer, gift buyer. I just was a buyer for a long time and I really loved it. And it helped me to work with a lot of people, but just understand how stores cultivate the product that they have. So I want to first talk about how to approach indie bookstores with just some helpful hints, and then just some little tips to think about what to think about when you are looking at your cover and thinking about merchandising your book like retailers do. So, first thing, and Cassie, if you have questions along the way, just stop me. But when you approach indie bookstores, and you should, because it's just another avenue for people to find you. And honestly, I think sometimes we discount how important having a paperback is. I did
Right.
a little research. According to the Association of American Publishers, last year paperbacks and hardcovers were still the number one selling format for books. But ebooks were just 10% of the market. And that actually really surprised me. But it was like paperback, hardcover, 35 and 36%. So if you're only selling ebooks, are you missing out on what could be a big part of your business? I know that there's a cost to it. So if you're truly just starting out, you truly just want to get your books out there, don't want to worry about printing and having author copies, yes, the ebook is the way to go. But if you can get into local bookstores, that becomes another place where you could have a book signing. So here's some tips with how to approach indie bookstores. Now, every buyer is different. Every bookstore is different. So this is what I would impart to listeners with what worked for me. But the bottom line is you need to do research. What would always happen to me is like I'd get pop-ins. So we're a tourism-based business, meaning July 2nd is one of the busiest days of the year because people are coming in and getting ready for July 4th. And it would kill me sometimes how many people would pop in at 1 p.m. I just inhaled my lunch for 10 minutes. I'm back out on the sales floor and someone comes in and was like, "Hey, can I talk to you about selling my book art thing?"
Mhm.
And I would have to say no because I was not in the headspace to do a buy. But really, an appointment is always better because that buyer is then ready for you to give you undivided attention. But you may have to first start as a customer for these bookstores
Right.
in that go in, buy a book, see what kind of stock they have in your genre. Are they overflowing in romantasy? They may not be taking on yours right now. Is it the middle of January in Colorado and it's so slow, it's not, a great time? Or is that the best time? But making an appointment is better. And the way to do that is to first start being a customer, go in a few times, get the lay of the land, then start asking questions like, "Hey, do you sell books by local authors? And who do I talk to?" Start with asking those questions because I did that in Scottsdale. My book is selling in a Scottsdale bookstore. it takes place in Scottsdale, so that's why it was a no-brainer. But I'd been in several times. I knew that they stopped local authors. And then I just asked, like, do you sell local authors? Yes, we really support local authors. Who can I talk to? I got the contact information and started with a phone call and an email. And that works so much better. But
So, how do you
yeah,
like just the bravery of calling up a store asking to make appointment? Is it better to call or is it better to walk in and say, "Hey, I would love to make an appointment to talk about my book"?
I mean, I guess it's whatever your comfort level is. The thing is, I just was there and I felt compelled to ask the person who was standing there, and then I could leave my card and my press kit behind. So there's pros and cons, I guess, and it should start with what you're most comfortable with. If you're really only comfortable with a phone call, I would call, but be mindful of when you call. Mondays and Fridays are the worst time to call someone because those are normal business hours. And really, when you're running a retail business, Saturday and Sundays are not good times to call either. It may be a great time for you, but really, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, middle of the week are best because Monday, everyone's catching up if they've been gone for the weekend or if they've worked all weekend, they're answering a bazillion phone calls. Friday, they just want to like clear their head and get ready for the weekend if they're working. So call Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I would say probably morning is the best time. And if you don't get someone, maybe then consider popping in, you know, and just trying to get a feel for like who can I leave this with and who can I talk to. But what happened with people that I work with sometimes is they'd pop in and just be ready to like try to sell me their thing. You always should just be prepared to leave something behind if you can't meet with someone. But if you have an appointment, then that person is setting aside time and you have their full attention. So that's really the best thing to do.
So, you talked about leaving your card and your press kit. And one of my questions is, what should I be carrying around with me all the time?
All the time. I
And
don't
what
care.
should that look like? Can you kind of go into that a little bit?
And this is whether you're an author trying to approach a bookstore or an author trying to make a connection with a future reader. I say a must at all times is some sort of contact card, some business card with your photo on it. You should always have your picture because then they're like, oh, yeah, I remember this person. I have just a contact card with a QR code, but just my basics, website, email. You don't have to have your address, phone number, and all this with like a QR code to social media links and website, and then my picture on the back. So that's baseline, I say, because again, like I sold a book to my dental hygienist because she asked what I did, and I told her, and I got them interested, and they wanted to read my book. I gave them a card. Sales opportunities are everywhere if you're willing to answer the question, what do you do and what do you write
Right.
in a concise way. But having that card is so important because it's just a way for you to seem professional out of the gate if you're approaching a bookseller or a brick and mortar of some sort. Um, but also just a way so that someone remembers their exchange with you. And then if you want to go further, I have books in my car and I have press kits, which meaning like if I'm going around and I want to leave something behind, a press kit, I mean there's probably different definitions. I just say it's like my card and then sort of almost like an author resume or CVC, if you will.
Mm.
You know, has your photo on it and it has your book cover on it, and then reviews and bullet points of facts about your book and why it would be great for someone to sell. And then a book, because you could say, well, I'm sorry so and so isn't here. I'd love for you to just consider my book. I'm going to leave all this behind for you and then let me know. I think that's a great way to get people interested to see if what you have might work. But I also would say you need to understand The cat bud has appeared, but we are not over. So
We are not over. I'm so sorry.
no,
I have,
I
like,
think
no door to, like, lock her out.
Cassie just moved. So it's like the cat is curious and letting us know. But I would say also the other trick with indie bookstores is they work on wholesale and consignment. And so you need to understand how wholesale works because I've had authors approach me and they were trying to sell their book to me at retail.
Right,
And retail is whatever you're selling your book for. Sale is like your cost. And it's a little tricky with books because we don't make as much royalty wise on them. But if you had a paperback that cost $5, your wholesale price would probably be like $8 to $9, especially if you're selling it for 16 or 17.99. Everyone has to make money, right?
mhm,
Everyone, it has to be a good business deal for everyone. As an author, you need to make your cost back plus a little bit more, but then there has to be enough for the seller to make some money. So it could be half of 17.99 or whatever to make yours a little bit more attractive. And then if you're selling a ton of books, everyone's happy. They're going to reorder. But some places also pay on consignment. So the indie bookstore slash gallery I'm in Scottsdale, they they wait till I've sold like $50 worth of product and then they'll send me a check for that. And they only ordered 2 books to start just to try it. And then they'll reorder more. But if you get in somewhere and have a good relationship with that person, you could do a book launch there and sell 50 books, you
right.
know? So it depends on your goal. I understand brick and mortar retail. So my goal is to get into stores, but don't be discouraged if you get rejected because there could be so many factors. Maybe you're the 20th romantasy, and for them in their region, romantasy is not selling, but
Right.
science fiction is, or they're just not buying right now. Our buying season in Colorado, because tourism is Memorial Day to Labor Day, is January, February. That's when we finished inventory, and that's when we start to look at new things. For people like, Southwest, like Arizona's the opposite. So their tourist season starts November 1st to about April, May 1st. So they're probably getting ready and buying September, October. So that's why a little research goes a long way. You got to figure out like, is this a tourism place? Is it more for locals? What season I am and what's the best time to approach a buyer,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So, yeah.
What do you
But
think about approaching stores that may not be your traditional bookstores? Because I know you have different brick and mortar places yourself, and there are some
mhm.
around me in this new small town. Of course, my family's like, "Yeah, you should tell them about it." They would put your book up, and I would be like the only book there, kind of thing. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Like, how do you, what do you think about that in approaching being more of a local author in a town? And
Well, you got to think about your book as a gift. It's not just a novel, it's a gift.
yeah,
And yours are perfect little gifts that if I was merchandising them, I would put it with tea and
hmm,
coffee and a
yeah,
baking thing. And it's all retailers know like you make little stories. And it's not just that you want to be on a bookshelf with other authors. In fact, it's your advantage if it's the opposite. If
yeah,
you're the only book on the table that's merchandised in a cute way with other products that fit your vibe and feeling, you're going to sell way more. That's how I put my romance in one of our boutiques. It's just sitting on the table by a pair of jeans and a heart shaped dish and this pillow with a phrase on it, and I've sold 16 copies off that table in the
Wow.
last month. So, because people are like, I'm going to get this for so and so with my heart dish or with this bookmark. It's all about merchandising. So, actually, I would say go for it and say, I have these teas too, you could give out with my book or whatever, or if you want to sell the teas with it or something.
Yeah.
So, the bottom line is you have nothing to lose,
Yeah,
right?
that's true. That's
I
true.
mean, they could say no and no harm, no foul. Your life's not going to be any different.
Yeah.
They could say yes, right?
Yeah.
They could say yes, and then all of a sudden, you have a new network and a new connection. What I also would put in your press kit is like, here's my social media platforms that I can cross promote for you. So I will do TikToks and reels that my book is in here. People are always looking for that, and
Yeah.
that sweetens the deal too. So it's a little work because you want to cross promote, you want to send out the word and tag them and show like, hey, I'm in this new store, but it's kind of a cool part of your resume, right? We're always
Right.
building our author resumes, right? So if you have a list of stores that carry your book because of your hard work, that only, I think, sweetens your reputation as an author. And it just
Sure.
gives people a ways to find you. The last thing I want to say is if you do get rejected by an indie bookstore, I've seen authors take to threads or Instagram and immediately shame them.
Oh, no.
Don't ever do that, okay?
Yeah, don't burn a bridge.
You're right. Don't burn a bridge. You never know. You may
Never.
give someone your card, and maybe it's the old buyer who's retiring, and the new buyer comes in and says, "I think this would be perfect." If they go on your social media and say you've shamed them, then definitely that door is closed. You never know why someone's not going to buy your book. It may just not be the right time, but in
Right.
6 months it will be. So just be patient. I would follow up if you don't hear anything, but don't badger. It's all about balance. Um, so those are tips for how to approach indie bookstores. Hopefully that was helpful. Other ways to sell face to face are going to conventions or book events, author events. I know a lot of conferences these days have ways as authors for you to rent a table, not too expensive, and then sell
Right.
your books. But thinking like a retailer again, it's all about merchandising. How are you making your display so irresistible that when someone walks by, it gets them to stop? And
Uh-huh.
a lot of times it's little things like having some sort of swag and useful swag. I did a poll on this. Pens were the number one swag items that both authors and readers loved picking up at conventions. Like a little post-it note with you could have CK Darling post-it notes with hearts and like, because people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I love this, but I can use this." I
Right.
think stickers are always fun, but then stickers, like, sometimes I have a ton of stickers. It's like, what am I gonna do with this sticker?
Yeah.
I still say they make for a nice table, but with my romance, I had, because it was wedding themed, just wedding favors.
Right.
A Hershey kiss with the name and like save the date on the bottom. Mints. People love food items, obviously.
Uh-huh.
But start there with something you can afford. Obviously the stuff gets really expensive, but there are like Zazzle, Redbubble, For Imprint is even a company that makes logo themed stuff that you can
Right.
sell. It's all part of merchandising. The classic retail phrase is you've got to spend money to make money.
You know what's
And
intimidating though at some of these book conventions and reading conventions is, people will have like their poster thing up
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
these fancy tablecloths, and that's requires quite a bit of expense up
it
front.
does. Yeah.
That can be a little intimidating too.
It's so intimidating. And I would say if you're not there yet, just wait. I
Yeah.
think because I've been to conventions where the person had one book and nothing on the table. and the books were just kind of stacked and he was sitting there. But no one bought his book. You're still trying to attract customers, and retail selling is all about subliminal messaging. It's all about starting the buying process by just even getting someone to like come to your table. So
Right.
it is an expense, and maybe that's a goal. Maybe don't do it out of the gate. I would caution people to do it right before just doing it, because you could spend money on a table. And if you can't afford right now to make the table a sensory and shopping experience for your reader, then maybe wait until you
Yeah.
can say, I'm in a budget and I'm going to print pens and post-its or chapsticks or something, and make that like a list of your goals for like this convention this year. I'm going to go and I'm going to sell, but I know like I have to plan for this cost and this cost and this cost, you know?
Right. I know
Um,
that I've
yeah,
looked into like the things, the little poster things, that roll down and up that
yeah,
kind of go behind the table, and
the banners.
those can
Hmm.
get really expensive. And I talked to this one lady and I thought she was so cool. And she was really there with a couple other people at a bookstore, but I thought this was so smart. They had all that stuff and she didn't. And a lot of people were coming to her booth because she bought a balloon arch. She said it was cheaper and she could get it on the day and didn't have to take care of it later. Like she was just going to pop it, be done with it. And she just bought fabric for her table and it was very whimsical colors. Like
Yeah,
nothing was printed on. She did have a poster that sat up.
right.
She very minimal things. Like she didn't have all the other stuff, but she had this really cool balloon arch.
That's
And everyone
absolutely
was just like,
perfect. It's
it's
perfect.
different. And
Yeah,
we beelined right to it. So
exactly.
I thought it was
Yeah.
pretty neat.
You could even get
Yeah.
like cardboard boxes and get, go to Joann Fabrics and see the cast offs or something. They have bins where it's like just
Mhm.
pieces, and or just get tulle. Everyone loves the whimsy of tulle. Depending on your genre, you could build like tulle and have like something going with that, and to make something yourself is not that expensive. So yeah, I mean, however you can do it to make yourself stand out, absolutely. You don't have to spend a lot of money as long as you make yourself memorable.
Right.
So,
I love that.
yeah, I mean, that's perfect. In fact, the next time we sell books somewhere, we're doing it. We're gonna
Yeah.
have a balloon
I
arch.
thought it was brilliant
Yeah.
because she drove in, because that's always my question too, and I tend to ask, like, "How do you plan for this if you don't live in the state
Mhm.
for where the conference is or what have you?" And, I hear over and over, "You're driving," typically, because it's too expensive to ship all your books and materials and yourself. So it's just easier to drive. And she said, I knew that there was a balloon bouquet company nearby, and I called them, scheduled my balloon arch, told them my colors, picked it up on the way in, and
Yeah.
I will pop it and let it go on my way home. And I
I
thought,
think it's
so smart.
fantastic. So smart. So
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And she said if that
absolutely.
didn't work, she would just get some balloons, to be on the table, and balloon bouquets, if you will, and things like that. And I just thought there are other ways of doing that, and
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's really smart.
Yeah. We're
And you
all
have to think of it as window
yeah.
shopping, right?
Yeah, absolutely. How do you get your customer to the door? It's one thing then to, like, be able to sell beyond that point, but just getting them to your door is half the battle. And then if you have, like, a Hershey's Kiss to offer them, you're like, "Hey, you want a kiss?" Or something
Yeah.
like,
You want a
"Have
Hershey's
your
Kiss? You like
stick.
chocolate? Like
Have
whoever
your
turns down
stick."
chocolate
No
probably
one.
shouldn't be there anyway.
Sociopaths, like,
Right?
okay, like, obviously, you don't want those people buying your book, no. But, so yeah, those are my tips. I think I I'm gonna save this for, like, another episode because I could go so much deeper into color theory and as far as, like, how that works merchandising, the meanings behind color and why that's important for your paperback. So But I think I'll save that.
You're gonna save
I'll
that
save that.
tidbit, that
We've
bonus?
got hot topics again in November, so I'll do a more like, you know, just a fun instructional hot topic later. Yeah.
I love how you have this experience, and I am one of your friends who asked you about wholesale because that came up with the tea company that I've been working with, and I just was like, "I know nothing," between wholesale and consignment. Consignment is when they buy it outright, right?
No, consignment is you send them your product and there's an agreed upon
Oh,
time. A lot of artwork is sold on consignment. Some galleries will say, I want to have your painting and I'm going to put it up for 30 days at this price.
I see.
Whatever the cost is wholesale, the retailer will double it and add 10% and then
For
probably
their
round up.
profit, right,
Yeah.
of putting it up. So
Yes.
for consignment, they're just sending you your check after it sells.
After it sells, if it sells. And galleries do this in that way. They haven't shelled out $15,000 for a painting, not knowing if it's going to sell.
Right,
Books,
versus wholesale is buying it up front, and then the person is trying to sell it to make their money back and then some.
well, wholesale has to do with pricing,
Mhm.
consignment has to do with how they pay you.
Okay.
Wholesale is just universal.
That's
Wholesale is
universal.
wholesale,
I understand.
whether
Okay.
they either buy outright and there's something in retail called terms. We spend $5,000 on jewelry, we send them that check for $5,000 either immediately or sometimes we have 30, 60, or 90 days to pay that $5,000. But still, we're paying outright. When it's consignment, we're putting it on the wall and waiting it for it to sell. That's when we pay them. So there's pay outright or consignment, but wholesale is always either it's
That's
wholesale
just
or
the
retail.
pricing of it. Got
Yeah,
it.
it's how you structure your pricing. That's what wholesale
And
is.
that took a lot for me to wrap my head around,
Mhm.
and my husband was like, "You're pricing too low, Cassie. You're pricing too low." So I went to Angela. I was like, "Okay, so if my book costs this to print and my retail is this, like, I don't know." And it comes, like, my books being printed right now are coming from the UK,
Right.
if they're the special edition, and of course, that's what they wanted.
Mhm.
And they're the only store that has my special edition besides me. So, and of course, I had to get it to me to sign it because they wanted
Right.
all their books signed.
Yeah.
But
Most, bookstores
yeah,
do want signed copies, and that's something that sells it
because that
more.
adds value too, right?
Mhm. They can't get it on Amazon signed, so you should be prepared to sign copies. Yeah, exactly.
So,
Mhm.
and then I had to think about my shipping to them, which was wonderful of them because they were like, "Oh no, we'll reimburse you, or you could use our UPS code, you know, to ship."
Right.
So that was
Yeah.
lovely of them. But
It's either half, wholesale, whatever your retail is, like, say, just to be easy, your retail's $20. You're gonna charge the bookstore $10. If you go more than that, that
and
becomes
that's
less
assuming you priced
attractive.
your book right at the beginning, right?
Yes,
Because
because
people that didn't price their books right, I think this is where you get in trouble because wonder if it costs $12 to print that $20 book, right?
then you should be
It should be
yeah, if it
costing a lot more. So I always think that's something to think about too, because, like, you have to
if it
hopefully you're
costs
paying
$12 to
$8
print,
or $5 for that printed book, or
if it
something.
costs $5, I'm selling my wholesale at 9. So then, I'm getting 9 and they're getting about 8. So it's pretty even. If your book costs $12, your retail should be 24.99. There is a subliminal message that makes something 24.99 way more attractive than something $25. We think that little penny is
Mhm.
way less expensive,
Right. Yeah.
and it has to be advantageous for the business to carry your book. So, how do you price it so that you're getting what you need out of it, but still making it attractive to a seller? That, hey, the more we sell, everyone's making money, you
Right.
know? So those are things to think about for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it. I'm learning a lot. I saw my book in the space already, and
That's
it's
great.
exciting.
Yeah,
it is exciting to see your book in places like that.
it is. Yeah. It gives you another thing to post and it's just another way for people to find you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, let's go to updates. What are your updates?
So I've been moving, and not just from house to house, but to a different state. So
Hmm.
I now am in Tennessee, which is my home state, where I was born, where a lot of my family is from, or they live in northern Georgia, which is also a soft spot in my heart. My town I write about is in Georgia as well. Um, but yeah, that's been it. I'm waiting for my furniture to come this week, so I'm kind
Mm,
of makeshift everything right now. So hopefully things start to look a little normal. And
yeah.
somehow I was able to write this weekend, and I'm wrapping up my second short romance series in draft anyway. I've got one edited. So, yeah, the third book's coming out, and I'm really happy with how it's rolling. I kind of am digging the vibe. So,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
I like it.
Cool.
What about
Wow.
you?
Well, I don't have much. I'm still in the editings and we're getting ready to remodel and do about it's just been a little bit of a hectic summer and I've had to work more in our businesses. So
Yeah.
I don't have much of an update, but I want to what I want to do is expand this section to if we don't have much of an update, we can talk about what we're reading, what we're watching, or a viral moment we're seeing online. And I saw something go viral and kind of blow up on threads, and it was things that happened at the Sinners and Stardust convention. And this actually fits what we're talking about because if you are planning to do more in person sales and go to these conventions, hear me when I say do your research, not just on their website, but search these topics on Threads, Instagram, X, see what, and Reddit especially. Reddit is a great way to see what real people are saying.
Mhm.
So, the Sinners and Stardust is a dark romance convention. It was held in Boston. I think it's going to be New Orleans next year. Um, but all this crazy stuff happened, like people like male models getting groped by readers, like readers, come on. But just like people really blurring the lines of what they're reading as the fantasy in the book and then coming to the convention to like act out things.
Yeah.
Insane. Then we have the disaster of the Readers Take Denver conference. I'm sorry, I'm in Colorado. Sorry, Colorado, but this was just an abomination. So authors had they would deliver their books or the books got shipped there so they could set up later. They were stolen. Some of them, like thousands of dollars worth of books stolen. Some readers paid $300 to get in because Rebecca Yarros was going to be there and they weren't allowed. They were denied entry, so they couldn't get in or something happened. Disaster. Right. Then there
Like,
was
did they overestimate and there were too
I
many
think
people
they
there?
Because yes, because Rebecca Yarros, like, they sold way too many tickets, and people obviously Rebecca Yarros being in Denver, I mean, that was gonna be insane, because I think for Onyx Storm was also like, it was on the heels of Onyx Storm coming out, so it's getting all this press, and then it was just a shit show, excuse me. Um, then it was the Million Lives Festival, which was supposed to be this, like, convention for authors, but then this romantasy ball where attendees were encouraged to dress up in like these just elaborate costumes and gowns. And they get there and it's like in a warehouse, it's freezing. There's just these little bare conference tables with
There's no
nothing on them.
decoration?
No, nothing. There was no music. They got there and it was just like, what's happening? So there's so many there's like, I think big conventions, like ones that people really recognize, like Author Nation, a lot of authors and
Yeah.
recognize that. And then there's sometimes these smaller ones that take place, and you just like buyer beware. Go to
Yeah.
the forums, search the topic, see what attendees have said before you book tickets to some of these things because oh my gosh. So yeah, Sinners and Stardust, look that up on Threads and see. It's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah.
That's unfortunate because,
Yeah,
like,
it is.
they try to get excitement by having, the real life characters there. I just can't imagine
Right. Yeah.
people, like, basically assaulting these
Oh
models.
my gosh.
Like,
And then
no,
people online saying like, "Oh well, it's a man, it's okay." And I'm like, "Nah, I don't think
no.
so."
We wouldn't say that about a woman.
No, rude.
No.
Anyway,
Ugh, awful.
that's a whole other episode, but we're not
It
going to go into
is.
that. But just be careful out there. So, all right, ready?
Gosh, I'm ready.
Table topics. What's the most likely reason you'd lose your job?
My day job?
Yeah, just your
Uh,
job.
because I won the lottery or I'm doing really good at my author business. And I just stop. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I'd probably resign. I don't know. I'm too much of yeah, I just think of my teams. Like I couldn't just not do anything. I'm
right.
sure I would
It's
have,
hard.
my
Yeah.
3 weeks obligatory notice that's required of my position, and
Mhm.
I would do everything I could to make sure it was as smooth as possible. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't do anything that's not expected of me or beyond because I'm too much of a high achiever. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
that would be tough.
I actually have been fired before.
I have
That was a
to.
while ago. Yeah. But I think in a way sometimes those are really good things. I was working for a different like retail they're called attractions in Colorado Springs because there's a whole group of businesses that double as like a place where tourists can go and there's a place called Cave of the Winds which we love and their ride the pterodactyl is actually featured on the Today Show. The people from the Today Show and Travel Channel, they've all come and done this ride because sidebar, they tip you. You're in a swing strapped in and they tip you and so you're just dangling over a canyon like
Oh my
not
gosh.
a Grand Canyon type, but pretty close. Like you're just over a ravine,
Hanging.
basically in the mountains, 10,000 feet up, and then you're just dropped. So it's an attraction. Like you go, there is a store, there's a cafe, but there's things to do. So I was working for a rival attraction that wasn't very. They were doing some shady things. So I'm always like the change agent. I want to go in and these employees kept I was a manager and these employees kept coming up to me and saying, "This place isn't right. They're doing this to us. Can you help us?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll go say something." So I opened my mouth instead of just keeping my head down. And of course they got rid of me because I was trying to like shake things up too much. And this is very small potatoes in the world. So it's not a big bit. It wasn't that big of a
Yeah.
deal. They weren't paying me enough for it to hurt too bad, but just speaking up sometimes, gets me in trouble, but justice is such a huge thing for me. I hate when there's, like, bad people getting away with things or
Yeah.
bullies, or I just tend to speak out, and that sometimes gets me in trouble. So, anyway, all inspiration for our stories, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, great episode. Thank you for letting me talk about some of my tips, and thank you, listeners, for listening. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Don't forget to give us a review and rating wherever you listen to the podcast. It really helps us with visibility. Next week, new month. And we are deep, I know, September. We are doing a really fun deep dive into genres and different genres. And a lot of them we don't write in. So stay tuned for that.
I love it.
Until then, keep writing, keep doing. We'll see ya.
Bye.
Thanks for joining today's episode of The Author Next Door. Be sure to like, follow, and tell us your thoughts of this week's episode. Angela and Cassie would love to hear from you.